नमस्कार, मैं अमरेश कुमार मिश्रा। जैसा कि मैंने अपने लिंक में दिया था कि प्रत्येक शुक्रवार को मैं इस्लामिक कंसेप्ट पे अपनी बात को रखूँगा। आप लोगों के समक्ष आज उपस्थित हुआ हूँ और अपनी बात को रखना चाह रहा हूँ। बेसिकली अरेबियन पेनिनसुला का अगर आप देखेंगे तो आप ये पाएंगे कि यहाँ पे रब अल खाली रेगिस्तान है, ऊपर नाफुद का रेगिस्तान है, एंड द डेसर्ट जो ऊपर में है मेनली अरेबिया के कोस्टल इलाके में, इस साइड में हिजाज और इस साइड में कुवैत के साइड में जहाँ दजला और फुरात नदियाँ इराक में बहते हुए पर्शियन गल्फ में गिरती हैं। तो देन यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द काइंड ऑफ डेवलपमेंट which was then achieved at the time of pre-Islamic Arabia, and the people were divided into several tribes and having the tribal affinities, just like they were worshipping their own gods and they were idolatrous and polytheist, and they were called Bedouin. From the clans of Bedouin, the whole Arabia was divided into more than 300 tribal chieftainship, in which they were called Banu Makhzum, Banu Hasim, Banu Kalb, Banu Zadima, Banu Abd Manaf, Banu Umayya, Banu Tay, Banu Juhra, and other tribal chieftainship was established there, having belief in polytheistic Arabian people, and the center point of theirs was Kaaba, in which 360 idols having the representative of all the tribal situated in Arabian Peninsula worshipping the gods and goddesses was placed in the sacred sanctuary of Kaaba. And the center of the Kaaba was the figure of Hubal, who was having the statue of bronze, and bows and arrows were placed there for the totem significance and for maintenance of the belief system that anyone was going there, they can predict by throwing the arrows, and the center point of arrows decided the kind of the ambition they cherished and for which they entered into the sacred sanctuary of Kaaba. Definitely other tribals who were polytheistic in sense preserved their own god and goddesses, but several god and goddesses having great preeminence, like one you previously listened to me, that Hubal was the center point, and three goddesses, Lat, Manat, and Uja, and they were having shrines all over Arabia, but at Nakhla, the center point and the center point of Uja, where the famous Uja idol was established, and Dhul Khalasa, this is called Ammonite Kaaba, there was a column, or there was white stony column worshipped by the people surrounded in the region, especially Bedouins. And in desert area and on the coastal strip of Hijaz, Al-Hira, and all other places, small shrines were there. But basically, Uja, Lat, and Manat, and the main center of Kaaba was also having the sanctity of Allah. So The Meccans were polytheistic, Arabians were polytheistic, but it does not mean that there were only polytheistic people were there. But the people of other belief systems like Christianity was also there. And the center of Christianity was, you can see, the Taif Ghassanite clan of northern adjacent areas of Syria, who played the part of front line of Roman Empire, and the nomadic Arabian people who situated in the desert of Nafud and Rawal Khali. And several small points were there for the Christianity and the people who worshipped, who faithed in Christianity, situated in Arabia, even in Central Arabia. Some Jewish clans were also the part of Bedouins, like the Banu Qurayza was believing in Jewish and old Abrahamic system. And the condition of Arabia was very decentralized those days in political sense. If you see, there was nothing called the centralized state system in which the state was supreme, in which there was any concorded plan the state to be maintained. The loose tribal affinities was fostered by establishment of the pantheon at Kaaba, Ammonite Kaaba, and other places. And the people were having the religious sense of unity, and they defined several months like Muharram, Ramadan, Dhul al-Hijjah, and these months were very sacred, and the fight was not to be initiated by any tribe. And the paying of blood money, that is called ransom, if anyone killed innocent in the tribal affinities, they were forced to pay the blood money. And you see that in Kaaba the fight was very much prohibited, and the kind of circumambulating the Kaaba sanctuary, which was called Tawaf, was also there. And if we remember the historical incidents, that prior to the 50 days, the birth of great Prophet Muhammad, the attack of Abraha to demolish Kaaba, the sanctuary of the Arabian polytheist, he attacked with 60,000 forces, but he was defeated by the wills of Allah or the God himself, because that time the guardian of the center was Abu Muttalib, who was the grandfather of Prophet Muhammad. But Kaaba, the sanctuary, was safeguarded by a small entities. In collection, they attacked on Abraha and completely defeated. And that time, it was understood the house of the God, Baytul Allah, was saved by Allah, or the God, the supreme being. And thus the kind of tribal affinity was present, and people were polytheistic, believing in superstition, and several kinds of misunderstanding was also prevalent there. And in that circumstances, in the house of Abu Talib, who was the guardian of Makkah those days, in Banu Hasim clan, the great Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was born and was fostered in the house of Abdullah, whose father's name, and Amina was the mother's name. While prior to his birth, the father was dead, and like the previous traditions, that after attaining the 2 years of age, the Quraysh were sent to the northern desert under the leadership of the lady of Banu Juhra clan. And definitely Halima of Juhra clan was there to adopt Muhammad for 4 years in desert area. And Amina left her son and remained for 4 years alone. And when the Prophet returned from the desert, he and his mother visited Yasrib, and while returning from Yasrib, Amina died and Muhammad became an orphan, having no father, no mother, and responsibility of fostering fell on the shoulder of Abi Talib, who was the uncle, and he very responsibly executed the responsibility of the orphan Muhammad. But Halima, who was the foster mother, remained there to take care of the child, and thus way the childhood of the great Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Prophet Muhammad, passed. Later on, when he attained the age of adulthood, as the resources were not there and the clan of Banu Hasim was crossing through the time of scarcity, he was forced to earn his own alimony, and so he entered into the services of the caravan of Khadija ibn Khuwaylid, or Khadija al-Kubra, who was the greatest lady and wealthiest one in Mecca, and their visit to Syria for the trade purposes was very frequent. The great Muhammad was very honest and was very trustworthy and having great iman in himself, and so he led the caravan of Khadija and traveled Syria several times. And in trade practices, he was very honest, and more than 200% of profit was shared to Khadija, and very honestly he practiced the trade. And definitely it impressed the women, who was wealthiest one and was very renowned in Quraysh clan. And so lump sum biography of Muhammad at the age of 25, around at the age of 25, prior to the marriage of Khadija al-Kubra, history of Arabia and pre-Islamic time can be narrated in this way. In these circumstances, we see that in history, some Qurayshite leader like Abu Sufyan ibn Harb, who was the leader of Kaaba, he was a very wealthy person and was great polytheistic and the leader, and later on anti-Islamic in move. Abi Jahal, Amr ibn Hisam, who was called Abu Jahal, was from Banu Makhzum clan and was polytheist. Khalid ibn al-Walid from Makhzum clan. Abu Luhab was from Banu Hasim clan. Abi Talib was the uncle of Muhammad and was the follower of the path of Muhammad later on. And Khalaya ibn Umayyah ibn Khalaf, Bilal ibn Rabah, Hind bint Utbah, the wife of Abu Sufyan, and Abu Bakr Siddiq later followed Islamic path, and Utbah clan were the prominent Qurayshite who ruled Meccan polytheistic Kaaba, and who were there to rule the great Meccan city, but were the slaves to the religious sanctuary Kaaba, and was very much ardent to pursue the polytheistic religion of their forefathers. When at Jabal-e-Nur, Prophet Muhammad, by the medium of Jibreel alayhi salam, got the definition and divine revelation, which later on collected by Zayd ibn Thabit in great Quran, or the sacred Quran, Al-Quran. He started to resist the polytheistic tendencies and the idol worship of the Meccan Qurayshites in all over Mecca. And the messages of Prophet Muhammad, which later on called Islam, started to propagate in the Meccan people, especially in Qurayshite. But the Qurayshite leader Abu Sufyan, Amr ibn Hisam, and Utbah Umayyah bin Khalaf, all were very much opposed. As we see that in history, the followers of Islam were very much persecuted and were killed mercilessly. Some initial followers were killed mercilessly, like Sumayyah killed by Abu Zahal or Amr ibn Hisam. Bilal ibn Rabah was crushed by Umayyah ibn Khalaf and was tortured. And initial Islamic Sahabas were forced to leave Makkah and they departed to Abyssinia. And later on, as we see, the propagation of Islamic faith was not possible in Makkah by the resistance of Quraysh, especially Amr ibn Hisam, Abu Sufyan, even Khalid ibn al-Walid was ardent or arch enemy of the great Muhammad. So Hijrah was taken like the great migration from Mecca to Medina, that is Yasrib, more than 200 miles away from Mecca. And that time the kind of struggle was going Aus and Khazraj tribes. So they invited the great prophet to do arbitration and the great prophet migrated to Medina. And from that time Medina became the capital of the Islamic faith. And the people of Medina were called Ansars. And the Ansars were meaning helpers, supported Muhammad and accepted the tenets and the kind of divine revelation which was there propagated by the great Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And thus the whole Ansar, Aus and Khazraj converted to Islamic faith. And we see that after the migration in 622 with Sahabas, whosoever converted into Islamic faith, initial Islamic conversion, they went along with the Prophet Muhammad to Medina. But the Meccan Qurayshite were very much eager to crush the nascent Muslim state or the Muslim faith. So the great caravan returning from Syria, as the business of the Arab Qurayshite was continuous with Syrian border, like through the Ghassanid clan and Syrian areas. As we know that later on Caliph Umar, who became the Caliph, previously was the trader and visited Rome, Antioch, even Persia for the trade purposes. So the profession of the nomadic tribe of Arabia was to do trade, and they visited Rome, Roman Empire, Sasanian, Persia, as we see in later biographies by the great Islamic scholars of the great personalities of Islam. So we see that the kind of development which we see and which we understand, the resistance of polytheism by the great prophet and acceptance of Islamic faith even by Meccan Qurayshites, in which Umar and others are also connected. And so this is the first phase when Hijrat took place, and the Sahabas who were called Asra Mubasrun, on whom the Jannat was bestowed upon. And such Jannati were the four later on Rasiuddin, Caliph Abu Bakr, Umar ibn al-Khattab, Usman ibn Affan, Ali ibn Abu Talib, and Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, Talha ibn Ubaidullah, Jubayd ibn al-Abbam, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, Saad ibn Zayd, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. These were the early Islamic converts on whose basarat of Asra Mubasran, on which the heaven was bestowed upon. So we see that nascent Islamic state started to flourish at the time of when the polytheistic Makkah was very much flourishing by the trade. And in later video we will see how the struggle between the great Muhammad and the Meccans went on. And from 622 onwards we will see in the next video. Thank you. If you like my video, please comment, like and subscribe the channel. And just the second video I will post today itself. from 622 onwards. Thank you.